Alright guys, such a comic again today. Hope you're doing well and enjoying your day so far. Major Rostermania developments last night, especially with the teams that aren't expected on paper to be serious contenders next season. But maybe these rosters could cause some serious upsets, but some changes based on the rumours that we've seen a few days ago compared to what it seems is now getting locked in by these rosters. Is Looney cooking up another storm? What's going to happen to the rest of the OpTic guys if that team is getting picked apart after all? Very much enjoyed your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. Plenty to get into. Wanted to start here. Lineman put together this graphic of when each Call of Duty title came out and when the first official major of the season kicked off. Now, there's also a bit of nuance here because we're generally talking like proper pro lands. For example, Black Ops 3, there was actually a tournament called Totino's that happened in, I think it was even in November, right? So it was basically just after the game had launched. Now, not every single pro team was there. It was incredibly early days. So I think Lineman's put in the UMG South Carolina event, which started in roughly the middle of February. But still, most of these titles pre-CDL had some sort of LAN, even sometimes like a little bit earlier than the graphic implies. I mean, there was UMG Chicago at that was the end of December, to be fair. So I'm pretty sure that's what's being referred to here. But effectively, you can look at the cutoff, right? You can see what it was like. And Black Ops 3 wasn't an ideal season, as frustrating as it is, because that game was, well, I'm not going to get into it again, but that was the first year of the CWL, so it took a bit of while for them to get up to speed, right? But every other game, like every other game apart from BO3, which was the first year of the CWL, and as I say, you can even include Totino's in that as well, there was something before the new year, right? Every year. There was UMG Chicago, as I say, in Black Ops 2, that was end of December. There, I mean, in Ghost, in Advanced Warfare, like Ghost had the earliest one, and basically right at the end of November. From the game release to actually there being a title, or usually the game release is pretty much all in a line here. There's been some changes over the last few years, but effectively we know when the COD comes out. But all the way up until the CDL, right, we had majors pretty much every year before. We at least had some sort of LAN before the new year. Since the CDL over the last 6 years, that's only happened once, right? That happened in Modern Warfare 2. They did that major one in Raleigh before the season kicked off. But apart from that, it's always been in the new year, right? Like Cold War took until March to actually get a proper LAN. The kickoff for the Modern Warfare 19 season, that launch weekends, was at the end of January. Vanguard, it was the same story. Modern Warfare 3 was the same story. Black Ops 6 was the start of Feb, end of Jan, start of Feb. So, you know, there's just been the development, right? You can see it very clearly in the graphic how things have changed pretty much when we went to the CDL. And is that going to change this year? Probably not, according to rumors, right? So, you know, it's just been a big point of frustration because back in the day, there'd be so much hype the game would launch, and within weeks, right, we'd have the first major. Now, running the first major 2 weeks after the game launches might not be the best idea, just because it's so brand new, right? What's the map set going to be? Like, what the rules going to be? All these things, what the game mode's going to be, right? So, you know, there's obviously some sort of time frame, but something before Christmas, right? I mean, 4 to 6 weeks seems like a perfect time. In Black Ops 4, for example, the first event was right at the start of December. It was the 7th, I think, to the 9th of December 2018 after the game came out. You know, and that game came out in October, so that was about a 5-6 weeks period. This game, if we think Black Ops 7's coming out middle of November, it should be possible to do something middle of December, like we did with Raleigh back in Modern Warfare 2. But it's probably not going to happen, right? So don't hold out all that much hope about that. Now let's talk about what's going on with these rosters. So yesterday, Zuma said that he thought Cloud9 might end up being Gwyn, Beans, Abe, and Afro. Now it turns out this is seemingly not the case at all, and maybe only 2 of those guys are going to be there, because we saw Beans and Afro, they'd done the contract signing thing. The rumour was for some time that Abe, who of course played with Toronto Koi at the World Cup, was going to be in as well. But he'd not yet tweeted anything, right? So, not like that means much, but you know what I'm saying. The rumour then was about Gwyn, and Ronnie says this was an option at one point, but as far as he understands, that is no longer the case, and he drops last night what's going on with these other teams. So, the big rumour with Surge for some time was who their coach was going to be. They were making decisions on the coach. We're sure now that it's not going to be Rambo Ray. He was gone. Don't know where Rambo's going to go. I mean, the sensible guess would be Gentlemate. It just makes a lot of sense, French speaking, whatever. Got to be something that he's thinking about, that organization's thinking about. Doesn't seem like he wanted to stay with Surge, and the same for the whole rest of that team. But have they cooked up something that actually could be reasonably good? That is a good question. So they're bringing in Atura. You guys might remember Atura. He was coaching the Florida Mutineers for some time a couple of years ago, and he's back. So Surge are entering a new chapter under leadership of Atura. That is the rumor that Ronnie comes out with. Apparently they were considering a number of coaches, or there were a number of coaches interested, but this is the way they're going to go. So as a result, he is kind of building the team. Is he cooking or is he not? That is a good question. So the big latest rumor has been Legends, right? So Legends, it seems that it was going to be Surge that were leading the charge to sign him effectively. Hex revealed a while ago that he was having conversations and that he would be willing to let Legend go and play COD if he was able to join a starting team. Surge offering him a starting spot. We saw Shotzzy last night give his thoughts on what, let's say, some of the Challengers players might think about that, but Legend is considered the most promising Halo pro making the transition. Others probably will as well, but likely not straight to the Pro League. But Legend getting picked up, I think it is really exciting actually for the scene to see how he gets on. I think it's a great story to keep an eye on where he's heading in the future and whether he could be like a serious talent in the league. On paper, you would think if you're going to bring him in, you're going to need some sort of experience alongside him, maybe, to help him learn the ropes, as it were, but we'll see if they're really cooking that. So Legend, it seems, is making the move. Now, Gwyn apparently has wanted to play him, or play with him, right? So, as Ronnie says, he turned down offers from 2 other teams. So I think Rokkr is one, and I'm presuming Cloud9 is the other, right? So those teams wanted Gwyn, maybe others, I don't know. But that's based on the rumours that we've seen over the last couple of days. But he really wanted to play with Legend. And I totally get it if I'm Gwyn, right? Like, would you join a Rokkr team or a Cloud9 team? That, yeah, maybe they might be better than we think. We'll see some of the rosters again, certainly for Rokkr in a second. But they don't probably have the upside, right? Like, if this Rokkr team that we're going to discuss in a couple of minutes is better than we think, it's still probably like top 6, right? But if this Surge team is better than we think, it could be like real. What if Legend is just the next coming of HyDra, Shotzzy, whatever, right? Then all of a sudden, the team has some serious upside. So I think it's a kind of a no-brainer for Gwyn to try and follow Legends. And yeah, if Legend isn't that good and it doesn't work out, then, you know, he gets dropped down to Challengers or something, and Gwyn stays and he kind of becomes the face of the team or whatever, right? And maybe the most promising player. So I think it makes a lot of sense. And Gwyn's coming in and said, sources confirm that Gwyn would move though to the flex if needed, because that was played around with a bit before on the Ravens. It was like, okay, is Vivid gonna flex? Is Gwyn gonna flex? Is TJ gonna flex or whatever? And they played around with a few things that didn't really work, but Gwyn would be willing to do so. And I think really this has to be the year where Gwyn takes a step up. His rookie year was great. Last year was okay, but, you know, not the step on that I think we expected. This year he needs to step up, certainly on LAN, as we know. And apparently aBeZy is going to get recruited as well. Now this is pretty interesting because he was rumored to be in talks with Cloud9, but now it seems that he also seemingly agrees with Gwyn maybe that this is the most attractive approach. Now, there are rumours that Surge, because last year they were based out of Vancouver, none of the players really liked that. Apparently, I don't know if this is true, but there are rumours anyway that they are looking to relocate to Texas and be based, maybe it's not Texas, but, you know, not be based out of Vancouver, which does make it more attractive for many of these players. So that makes a lot of sense, I would say. And apparently, though, Lunarz is the man that is going to round out the roster. Now, this is when some of the questions have been raised on this team, because, like, Legend, Gwyn, I think that's a great duo to start with. And I actually like, I think, what they've done with the rest of the team as well. The question is about Lunarz, I think, more so, because aBeZy was pretty good at the World Cup. But Lunarz last year, in most people's eyes, probably didn't do enough to get straight back onto, you might argue, a team like this. But he is, you know, a slowish AR. He's actually going to properly play that role on this team. The Gentamates team last year was a bit of a shambles. Did he show much promise? You know, he sometimes, I mean, you know, Ronnie says that he showed flashes of top tier potential and could thrive under this new structure. Don't necessarily disagree. But I think, you know, in past CODs, instead of Lunarz, they would have put in like a slasher, right? Like some sort of an accuracy, right? Like a Clayster, a veteran AR leader type character to help these guys. But that's not the route that they're going to take. They're putting Lunarz in instead. And maybe in the new age, this is just what you're going to do. So that apparently is the team of 4. Very much intrigued to your thoughts on that in the comments below, because I think people are going to be... Some might disagree whether Legend should get the offer straight away, straight in, but I totally understand it. I think the Gwyn and the aBeZy duo-ship could be pretty nice. I mean, I'm expecting Legend to probably run a sub with aBeZy. Gwyn might flex if needed, but who knows, maybe the drawback is so good that it doesn't matter. You just run 3 subs on every map with a wall bouncing. something, who knows? And then Lunarz is a nice, slow, steady AR. It makes a lot of sense. You know, I do think leadership and learning and everything like that will be interesting, but I'm excited to see that roster in action. The other question then was what's going to go on with Rokkr, because, you know, people were then tweeting, oh, Looney, don't do it, please, right? Like, these guys are lining up, and O4 is like, I don't know what you're talking about there. But the rumor is that they're looking to get Mamba. So we know that Kremp had signed, we know that they were keeping Estriel, and as Ronnie says, with Gwyn out the door to Surge, Kremp was signed, Estriel was signed, and it looks like Skies is coming on board as well alongside Mamba. So it seems like Looney, this is what he's cooking up, and it's going to be Mamba with Kremp, Estriel, and Skies as the quartet for the upcoming year. So we'd heard the rumors on Skies, Estriel, and Kremp for some time. There were some questions as to whether that was the way to go. Like, I like keeping Estriel around. I think he's got a lot of pride. I like Kremp as well, right? I think, again, the pieces here are not so much the question. It just, when I look at the roster, I just don't see it, right? Like, I don't know if you guys feel the same way, because I do kind of like the individuals here. I don't know, maybe they'll prove to be better. And it's just when you look at this team, I just think, well, you know, are they going to have too many events where they're knocking on the door of Sunday? Probably not, and maybe not even close, who knows? Look, Sky's coming in as the leader. There are some questions on that. Sky's had a difficult season last time out. But as I say, how many players that are ARs who can still, I think, hold their own to a certain extent, that have a load of experience, that are world champions, are there left? I mean, it's only really Skies and Slasher, right? So it's understandable that those guys are still going to be in consideration, I would say. Then Estriel and Kremp, I totally get it. I think there are some questions if you're going to bring in Mamba, right? Because, look, that Omit team that knocked FaZe out of the World Cup, Mamba, Craze, Vivid, and Mac, right? That was the team of 4. There were some theories that Rokkr or even Surge could just pick up that whole team as a quartet and play them for the new year. Now, that's been talked about as maybe a good idea. I don't know, personally, if I love those ideas, because I tend to think that you're limiting your ceiling, right, by not mix and matching a little bit. But if Craze, Vivid, and Mac, if none of those guys get into the league and Mamba does, it's great for Mamba, but like, I feel a bit bad for those other guys, because I feel like they did everything at the end of last season and still might not be getting a spot. I think there would be an argument to say, as much as I think Estriel and Kremp could work, you know, could they have brought in Craze as well, replace one of those guys, at least keep something about that Omit team? Because, you know, as I say, I'm not a massive fan of putting a whole Challengers team straight into the league. I'd be fascinated to see how it goes, but if I was a team manager, I don't think I'd be doing that. But keeping together something of the chemistry there, I don't know, it might be something that would be worth consideration, rather than what it feels like they've done is to say, all right, well, Estriel's going to stay because he was kind of our best player last year. Then, I mean, Geo and Nero, are they going to get an offer in the CDL? There's not many spots left, right? There's really not many spots left at this point. We know what Gentamates we think are doing. No idea what the Ravens are cooking right now. Even if they're going to be the Ravens, it could be Space Station. But, you know, we got Geo, we got Nero, obviously Vivid and Mac, Slasher, TJ. You know, not all these guys can get on a team, and there's plenty of other names as well. So they could have considered something else there. It kind of feels like Looney was thinking, all right, well, I like this trio, Skies, Estriel, Kremp. I need someone to kind of round it out, play the flex here. Mamba was doing a great job in challenges, so I do get it. I mean, Drill gave his thoughts and said it's a shame to see that team split up. It would have been interesting to see them get thrown straight in, but that doesn't seem like that's going to be happening. So tweet your thoughts in the comments below. Again, questions on a number of these decisions. We're not expecting these rosters that we've mentioned to necessarily be top tier, but, you know, I think of these teams, the Surge team definitely has a bit more upside, I would say, than what we're seeing with the Rokkr right now. But tweet your thoughts on all of this stuff in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. Take care, and I'll see you next time.
Yo, it's Zuma, the street smart action figure with attitude.
Check out the detachable big nose.
Absolutely. Pop it on or take it off. It's your call. Zuma comes loaded with Brooklyn-style gear, phone, pizza slice, coffee cup, and more.